everyone. This is very exciting. This is our very first episode of Fangirlz Assemble's own official channel. We are doing our very first thing. I don't know how this is gonna go. So those of you who are joining us from our regular show that takes place in the Omnibus Collectors group, welcome.
Thank you for being here. Thank you to everyone in the chat already.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you are just seeing us for the very first time, we also welcome you. And you should know that the Kristan and I, we do a regular TV show. So I made the exact same mistake.
I watch YouTube on TV, so that's fair.
There you go. So that's why, probably. So we do our regular show every Sunday at 8 p.m. On Omnibus Collectors channel, where you can see the link, in our description. You can see, you can go there and follow us. But well, we thought that we're gonna do something different in this channel, that things that we don't necessarily get to talk about in our regular show. So we're just kind of doing it over here, and we're planning on doing some long review. One of them I have already recorded with a friend of mine that was gonna drop today at 6 p.m. And then I don't know, other things. We're just gonna kind of fly it with a seat of our pants and then see how it lands.
Yeah. So if anyone watching this now or later has any suggestions, we take those. You can leave a comment. You can leave it in the chat. We will take note of that, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we're also going to you can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and the links for all of that is over there. And we really appreciate if you subscribe and leave us some positive, not positive, constructive feedback. It can be positive.
Also, it can be positive. Don't say not positive.
I mean, yeah.
No, I hear you.
It will be really bad for our ego if it's not positive. But hey, listen, we understand. Maybe there's things we can improve on. So
yeah, we'll take that.
So we'll take that. So Kristan, I have not seen you in such a long time.
It's been a long time since we've been on. I feel like it's been months since our last stream. For anyone watching later, we just did one, and that's the joke.
Right. Hey, listen, you don't get to explain the joke, because then the joke kind of goes away. So for the very first episode, what we thought that would be a good way to kind of introduce ourselves is to take a trek down the memory lane of Goodreads. Now, Kristan and I are a huge fan of Goodreads. Do you want to explain what Goodreads is for the two people who doesn't know?
I was going to say, I would imagine everyone knows by now, but if you don't, Goodreads is a social media platform owned by Amazon, where you can go and you can talk to your friends about books. You can see what they're reading. I never pick up a book if I don't immediately put it on Goodreads as currently reading. I don't do it. I have to currently read it, like put it on my currently read shelf, and then open it up. Then I feel like I can read it. And then once I finish it, I'm so stoked to go to my Goodreads app and say I'm done, leave a review, and it goes toward my challenge. And that is what we're specifically focusing on today, is our Goodreads challenges that we have done throughout the years, because that is always so fun. It shows you everything you've read in that year. Like right now, my challenge is way too high and I'm way behind on it. So we'll see how that works toward the end of the year. But it's fun to look back.
Right. And the thing is, so I have, because you kind of brought up this topic, it's like, oh, we should talk about that. So I kind of went back in my Goodreads and stuff. I don't know, maybe I was a different person back then than I am today. Like, seriously, something that it actually kind of made me it's like, oh, this is a look back, not just on our reading habit, but me as a person as well. So that's how powerful Goodreads is. It can tell you that you have changed as a person.
It's kind of fascinating, because even just a few years ago, I'm glancing through some of these books, which I haven't done for every year because I want to be a little surprised, and I'm like, what? Who was I? I was just so I don't know. My reading habits were definitely different.
Right. And the thing is, even this year, for example, I challenged myself with 400 books because we read comics. Okay. So it's not difficult to reach 400 books. I'm already at 301.
I mean, you're killing it, because I'm not doing that good.
But the thing is, last year, I read total of 403 books for the whole year.
See, and that really varies too, because if you're reading a lot of thin Marvel trades, that's going to get you way up there versus if you're reading only Omnibus or something like that. So that can really like make or break you as
So
well.
the thing is, like, one thing I personally do, and I wanted to ask you, like, how you do it though, is that I try to kind of go, like, I'm very honest in terms of like whatever format I'm reading this. So
That's what I do. Yeah.
yeah, if it's an issue, sorry, an issue will go in there. If it's a trade will go. If it's an omnibus will go. I have done it, and that's only for the World War Hulk. That's the only time I've done it. That because when I first initially read it, I read it through trades. So when the omnibus came out, I went back, got rid of those trades, and put the omnibus back in. So I did, and that's like the only time I've done it, because
yeah, I wouldn't do that, but I am like a stickler about format, except like recently I got the Shonen Jump app, and on there everything's by chapter. So I take however many chapters are within a manga volume and I put that volume on there, mostly because Goodreads doesn't list the chapters and I don't feel like putting all those in. But also it's like 10 chapters per volume. So I'm like, I'm not going to put like 10 volumes on there.
Yeah, and that's what I'm actually doing for the Marvel Unlimited stuff as well, that I read.
That makes sense, yeah.
You know, because I'm going by, okay, whatever the trades or the premium format, whatever that is, has the most amount, that's the one that goes in there. Because I feel really, because I know that everyone else is not going to know how many books I read. I know how many books I read.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's something like, I don't want to cheat myself with this. Okay, so all that said, so this is something that when we first started talking about this, we were like, oh, 2015 is the first time I read comic books. That's categorically false. Goodreads reminded me, bitch, it was 2016. Now, I did read some more comic books before then, and those were added, but the thing is, like, not as more of like this regularly, you know? So that's something that, you know, I kind of learned from that. One of the other things that I learned, and, you know, we kind of talked a little bit about it before we started the show, and then I was like, stop saying those things. You have to say this to me live, is that 2015 to 2016, like, I read my last book in 2015 in September, and the first book of 2016 in April. And I do remember that at that time I was really depressed, and it was actually a journey down that road as well, that I remember that not feeling very good, like not being able to do anything. And, you know, so there was like a general like kind of sadness that kind of took over my life. And this is very personal, guys. You're going to get a lot of this. If you're joining us for the first time, and if you don't know us, you're going to get a lot of personal things with, you know, when we talk. So be ready for that. And yeah, so it was a very fascinating look back on that as well.
It's funny what you can learn about yourself now looking back then. So, I mean, we kind of challenge everyone watching too. Like, if you've had Goodreads for quite a long time and you've done the Goodreads challenge yearly, which is one of my favorite things to do every single year.
That's the first thing I do on January 1st. The first
I wait for it to pop up. Like, I'm a maniac. I'm like, when is it going to pop up? What color will it be? You know, which is silly.
The color. Because every year the banner is a different color. Oh my God. Yes.
Also, I don't understand the color progression, but that's another topic that no one cares about.
That's what we're gonna dedicate a whole episode for that later.
The color progression, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So you had a very interesting thought about that too. Your reading challenge.
Yeah. So mine starts in 2014. I was reading books and comic books before that, but again, I just didn't know Goodreads existed until 2014, I guess, where I started to keep track of it. And I will say, just glancing through here, the majority of the stuff I read, comics-wise, I read a lot of other things, which is not so much the case this year. But I read other things back then, right?
Right.
Was mostly manga. And, you know, I'm thinking back and I'm like, what was that about? And I'm realizing the majority of the manga, not all of it, probably the majority, was stuff I checked out from the library. So back in 2014, I was in a job that, like, I didn't love, and I needed a distraction. I, you know, needed something to read on my lunch break, and I didn't want to read anything from home. And, you know, I was close to my library, my local library, and I just wandered into the manga section. I don't know that I'd even read much manga before that. And that's what I kind of stuck to. And I got really into, like, YouTube videos about manga. And so the majority of the books that I read, not all of them, but the majority, were manga in 2014, which I know you love.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Guys. Okay, so there's also another thing about me. I'm not a manga reader, and that's okay. That's an okay person to be. People really mad at me for that, but it's okay. If that's your boat, stay on it, row in it, enjoy your time on it. But that's not my boat. All right. But yes. So the thing is, so looking back at those mangas, like the ratings that you gave them, did those change, you think? Do you remember any of those, first of all?
Well, you know what? If you want, I will just kind of go through the titles in my 2014. Let's do that. Okay, so it starts with 7 Billion Needles, Volume 1. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I do remember really liking it, but that is, I think, a 3-volume series from Vertical, and they're like grossly out of print now. So I think I still have the first one. Yeah, I still have the first volume, just hoping I would stumble upon the other 2. But they're like grossly out of print. So it's not going to happen, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I read it. I can't tell you anything about it. I can't tell you a thing about it. But apparently I liked it enough to give it 4 stars. So, then there's also Higurashi When They Cry, Abducted by Demons Arc, Volume 1. I still have that too. I got that. I'm trying to remember where I got these two. Probably at a half price books back in the day, and they were cheap, so I was like, okay, let me get some of those. Never continued. I don't think I can. I mean, maybe I'll find out. Maybe I read another one and I don't remember. But 4 stars. What's with me in 4 stars, right? 2014, the year of 4 stars. Then there's my first Western comic, Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, Volume 1, the hardcover. And I loved that. I loved that as a teenager, and then I think I reread it. So what's that?
And you still loved it?
I still loved it. I don't know how I feel now. Do I remember? Is probably real silly, like, you know, romancy. I don't know. I don't remember. I can't tell you about it. Other than I think Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane in it.
No, you don't say.
Yeah.
I would not have thought about that.
I gave it 5 stars. Well, okay.
There we go.
I think what would be fun too, we should revisit some of this stuff like now, reread it again and see if our rating would change. Not everything. That's too much, but
maybe the 5 stars.
Oh, someone said there's 4 volumes and 7 billion needles. Well, clearly I don't remember anything about that. So
was there 7 billion needles in them?
There's 7 billion volumes of I don't know. I know there was like a demon or something, so everyone in the chat's like, that's not what it was about. Yeah, I don't know. So 5 centimeters per second, also manga. I loved it apparently because I gave it 5 whole stars. I kind of remember that one more so. I actually do own that too. And I think the way it ended I liked, but it was kind of a love story. I don't know. You're like, I don't care about any of this. It's fine.
I mean, I'm just fascinated by this because I'm gonna have the exact same reaction when I get to my part. So
I'm like, what were these things?
Yeah, what were those things? So yeah, I'm just like, you know, I'm feeling very good about this.
Okay, good. My next 5-star was Wolf Children, which is also a manga, which I have that. It is a nice hardcover. I do kind of remember this one. It is about a family. So the mom and her 2 little kids, and something happened. There was probably a bad thing that happened. Guys, I don't know. So then, Cheese Sweet Home, Volume 6 and 7. That's when I was originally, or 5 and 6, reading Cheese. And of course, I love it. I'm realizing, by the way, that I'm doing this backwards. So I think that was the end of my year. Maybe I should go back. I should probably go back. Okay.
But you love Cheese though, because you just talked about Cheese.
Yeah, that's true. So now I still love Cheese. That's one that stuck with me. A Western comic, Lola, by Albert Orr. Something about a ghost. I only know that because the cover looks ghosty. There's something about a ghost.
How did you rate that?
You know what? It's not popping up for me. Let me see. Let me open that one. Come on, internet. Let's do this. 4 stars.
So much for stars.
I mean, I do know that was one I got from the library, and it was pretty small. So I don't know. And then I read the Drifting Classroom, which is a horror manga, volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I can tell you that was about a classroom that drifted. It's called Drifting Classroom.
So, by the way, before we get going, one thing we need to say that the way the rating system works in Goodreads, 5 stars is it was amazing. 4 star, really liked it. 3 stars, liked it. 2 stars, it was okay. 1 star, didn't care for it.
I didn't know that there was like even an official.
So
you know what I mean?
It used in the cell phone, like the app, it doesn't show up. But in the website, when you're trying to hover on a star, it tells you a little thing shows up. And
oh, I see.
But that was like way back when. I don't know whether that's still valid. But I just pulled up like, something over here and that says that is still the same. So that's what we mean when we say 4 star, 5 star. I don't know. What's your star system?
I mean, that sounds about right, I guess. I mean, usually I only reserve 5 stars for like, at least now, something that really blows me away, you know?
Right.
Otherwise, if I really liked it, it's 4 stars. 3 stars, I'm like, it's fine. So I guess it's a little different. Yeah. People are telling me in the chat, the Drifting Classroom is actually getting, is it a hardcover? Is that what I read? Yeah, hardcover treatment. So that's exciting. I don't know. I gave the first volume 3 stars, and then I read 5 more. So I guess I stuck with it a little bit. I know there's more volumes than that. Guys, I know it was a horror aspect. That's all I got. I don't know. I'm not going to remember any of these. Let's see. And then I read August Moon, which is a Western comic about
moon showing up in August.
I think I do remember there was like some kind of little animal character and a girl and maybe paper lanterns or something. I gave it 5 stars. I feel like it probably didn't deserve that. If I can't remember it, I mean, this is back when I read Death Note. I read all of it. I liked that. I remember Death Note pretty well.
Right. It's about Death Note, writing in a note.
Yeah, in a notebook, yeah.
Oh, hey, listen. Okay, so even though I don't like manga, I do watch some anime. I watched that anime, and I liked it.
And you liked it? Okay.
That was a very, interesting plot about, there's, rules. If you write this name on this notebook, people are gonna die. That's some cool-ass shit over there.
I liked it.
This movie was terrible, though. Don't watch it. But
yeah, I've heard that. I never watched it.
Yeah,
I will say that the first half of, I don't know if the anime was similar, but the first half of the book, like the volumes, I thought was way better than the second half. Pretty much when that character died, I was like, I don't care as much, you know?
Right.
I read some Yu Yu Hakusho back then. I guess I like that. I read The Flowers of Evil. That's still probably one of my favorites. So, that's good. I read some Bunny Drop before I found out that ending gets real weird. It's about this little girl who, I think her guardian dies or something. Guys, I'm trying to remember from ages ago. Don't hate me. So if you know, I'm so sorry. But it gets real creepy toward the end, I hear. So I dropped it because I was like, I don't want a part of this. I'm done. Oh, that's when I read Hyperbole and a Half by Ali Broche. Have you read that?
No.
Oh, you need to right now.
Oh, okay.
Let's stop the show. Anyone who's read that and knows, it's brilliant. Also, I think you would really like it, so you should read that.
What's the name?
Hyperbole and a Half. You'll probably recognize the art on the cover. She's so good, though. Oh, it's so good.
Hi.
I'll link you.
Okay.
I read some volumes of 20th Century Boys. I liked that, but I haven't continued that. I was still reading the Buffy trades back then. Love those still. I read all of Slam Dunk. which is a basketball manga, known to be amazing. I don't like sports. That's well known, and it was very, very fun. I remember being really funny and fun. I read it all from my library, so I still like that, and I still agree with my ratings there, which were good. I read Real Volume 1. That was a basketball manga about guys in wheelchairs playing basketball. That was really cool because it was a different perspective on the whole thing. I didn't finish it just because my library didn't have other volumes. So that's how that went. I read number 6, volume 1. I liked that. I read more Buffy, Nisekoi. Apparently I enjoyed that. 1 volume of Blue Exorcist. Again, I just went to my library and kind of picked up a lot of manga, apparently. Dead Man Wonderland, I still like that. I read a volume of Black Butler. I think I didn't enjoy it because I didn't continue it. Batum, I read 1 volume of Naruto. Girl, I never went back. I don't know. I just didn't continue it. I guess it was fine, but
I would like to make comment on any of this because I have no idea what these are.
I'm trying to go through it fast because I'm like, you don't know what I'm talking about. Takio, which is a Brian Michael Bendis book about a younger like girl superhero. I really like that. That was my dad's. Spike Into the Light, James Marsters, who played Spike, wrote that. I love that. Apparently I read all of Cheese Sweet Home this year, which I adored. Goodbye Chunky Rice, which is by Craig Thompson, who wrote Blankets. I like that. And I read 2 volumes of Yotsuba, which I also enjoyed. That's my whole 2014. I skipped some stuff. We didn't care about everything, but that's it.
Okay. So how did 2015 fared for you? Because I don't come in until 2016.
I know. I'm trying to hurry for you.
Because 2016, like 2015, after 2015, like I always read, but after 2015, I was already also reading like prose book, and going through that. I'm sorry, I actually don't remember any of them.
Yeah, I got a lot of prose that I'm just like skipping over because I'm like,
Right.
no one cares about this. But all right, 2015 had more manga at the beginning. We'll see if it changes. World Trigger, Seraph of the Inn, Assassination Classroom. I read the first volume of Food Wars. I can't handle that, you guys. It's really popular. I couldn't handle the girls like eating food and like orgasming. Like no thanks. So I didn't continue that. Not my thing. My Neighbor Seki, I like that fine. Skipping past prose, a lot of prose. I've read the first volume of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I like that. More Assassination Classroom. The first Terraform Mars volume. Big Hero 6 manga. I like that. I love Big Hero 6. This is when I read Wandering Sun, apparently. Time Killers, more Dead Man Wonderland, more Nisekoi, Tokyo Ghoul, Emily Carroll's Through the Woods.
Oh,
loved that. I still agree with that. So that's good. Mm-hmm. Some comic called Over the Wall. Don't remember it at all. Marble Season. I remember not liking that. So Freddie and Me, which I still love. That is a nonfiction look at. Do I have that near me? I've talked about it. Here we go. This is Mike Dawson. It is basically about his childhood and being obsessed with Freddie Mercury.
Oh, interesting.
So, there's a lot of Queen talk throughout this whole thing, and it was really, really cool. So people should check this out if they haven't. I still love this. Let's see. I read Monster. That's still my all-time favorite manga. So I agree with that. The Silent Voice, still love that. Vinland Saga, still love that. Nimona, still love that.
Nimona? Oh, Nimona, the Noel Stevenson?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
It was also just announced she's coming out with a new comic, nonfiction stuff. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I read Amulet. That's that. It's like a children's series. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I like that. In Real Life, that was kind of a YA comic that I really liked. Can't tell you about it. Don't know. Let's see. I read some One Punch Man back then. I still like One Punch Man.
One Punch Man is so good.
It's so good.
It's like, I don't read manga, but I can tell you One Punch Man is good.
Super Mutant Magic Academy. Do you know about that one?
No, I don't. Tell me more about that.
It's YA. It's really fun though. It's like it's kind of a lot of like little stories in one, but the volume is like chunky. I got it from my library. It's really fun. I think you would like it. I remember Super Mutant Magic Academy. Like these kids have powers, but again, the stories are pretty like standalone and kind of somewhat comic strippy.
It's Marvel, right?
I don't think it's Marvel. No, it's not. I can't remember who publishes it, but.
Oh, okay. Because you said mutant, and immediately I thought about X-Men.
Well, it's not. That's fair, though. That's fair.
All right.
I'm gonna skip some of this, so because nobody cares. I read Outcast, the first volume. I didn't ever finished it, so who knows what I felt about it. I read Anthony Bourdain's Get Jiro, which I didn't like at all. I hated it. I like Anthony Bourdain, but I did not love it. El Defo, though, is still one of my favorite nonfiction books. So if you haven't read that, it is so good. By C.C. Bell. Awkward, I still love that series. Honor Girl by Maggie Thrash, that's still really great. The Wicked and the Divine, I still like that. Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. Loved it then, love it now. I read some Lumberjanes, still love that. And that's 2015.
Awesome. So what's your overall, like, do you feel like you are going to go back and change the rating of most of them, or you don't care?
I feel like, well, I'd never change the rating because I think that's a thing that's stuck in time. So if I reread it now and I felt differently, I would change it. A lot of people, when they reread stuff like years later, they will put in their review, like, I rated it this back then, but I changed it to this. So they kind of know, you know?
Yeah.
So I think I may do that if I ever reread anything, but.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, mostly just stuff that, like, I don't remember. I'm like, well, I think a lot of it's like library stuff I picked up and I was kind of like, oh, I want to try this and didn't care for it.
It's something that's, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to kind of talk about that because there's two ways of looking at it. You can say that, well, I read it and I loved it at that time and I enjoyed it for whatever reason, but I have no memory of it. Is it still good?
Yeah. And that's hard because, like, we read so much that could have just fell out of our brain and no fault of it. Maybe it was amazing.
Like Inside Out. It just went into
the yeah.
And it went away.
Sad. Now we're going to cry.
Now we're going to cry? But anyway, okay. So let me kind of go quickly do my 2016 because there wasn't a lot. So it looks like in total I read about 169 books on 2016. And I don't know if I don't know why I picked these books. So before that, I definitely read Watchmen, Sandman, Dark Knight Returns, and there's a bunch of other Marvel comics that I read at that time, and I have no memory of them, so I couldn't even go back and add them. Because back then, I'm like, oh, comics, I don't think I should be adding them on Goodreads, because, it's not the same. I was one of those people.
Oh, I'm glad you changed.
I know. I'm so glad I changed too. So, but I do remember adding the Sandman and Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns, all of those, and Tintin books, all of those back in because I remember them. Everything else, I don't know. I remember. I definitely do remember reading X-Men. Some X-Men, because the movie came out, I liked the movie, and I read some X-Men. Up to this day, I have no idea who wrote them, what it was, and what was the story to even ask for that. Probably somewhere around 90s, like 90s X-Men. I don't know, maybe, but I'm not going back to look for that. So without further ado, my first comic in 2016 was V for Vendetta. That blew my mind because I was not expecting that. And I gave it 4-star. I still think it's a 4-star. I still think it's, because I do loved that. I loved that. And I read that. And then just after that, I read Mouse by Art Spiegelman. And obviously, I gave it 5-star because that is heart-wrenching. And then I read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I gave it 1 star, both volume. And honestly, to this day, I mean, I'm still like, I don't like that because it's such a good concept of like, here's the thing, I'm one of those people, I love that dumb movie, loved it, you know, back in 2003 or whatever that book.
I remember liking the movie too. Yeah,
love that movie, hated the book because I'm like, what is this? Because I think I really hated it, and Mina Harker, she looked so young, and then she was getting it on with some old dude. I'm like, fuck this nonsense. Do not care for that. And I didn't. So even up to this day, it's like it's a 1 star for me. Then I added Batman: The Dark Knight Return. I added it, but I know that for a fact that I read it before, and I gave it 5 star. I don't know. To be honest, though, looking back, I don't think it's a 5 star for me anymore. But like you said, it's stuck in time. So we're going to keep it that way until I read it. Then I read Persepolis, which Marzan Satrapi. That was a tough read. I do remember that, and I gave it a 4 star. Then there's a whole bunch of Batman I read. And the one, Black Mirror, is the only one that I remember. I gave it 5 star then. And just before we did this show, we talked about in the other show that how I got the absolute version. And then there's like a whole bunch of other Batman, no recollection, but I read them and I gave them all 4 to 5 star. Once again, don't remember. You know, one of them is like a Death in the Family. That is like the old.
Oh,
like,
I read that and did not like it.
Yeah, but I gave it 4 star. But now thinking back, I'm like, why?
I'm curious when I read that because I just remember reading that years ago. And I wonder what I rated it. So we'll see.
Right. And so this is all happening 2016 May, by the way. So it's been 3.5 years and like 3.5 years? No, 3 years. And looks like I have no recollection of them. And I don't know. This is the one that really kind of stuck with me. Blankets by Craig Thompson. At that time, I gave it 4 star. I cannot stand that story now.
Yeah, you crap on it all the time.
Right. But
I love blankets, so.
I don't know, maybe because like, you know, so this is another thing I'm noticing though, because the more I'm reading, the more the stories are feeling more and more the same, like because there is nothing special and stuff. I think now I have gotten into a situation, and this is just, I don't know, you can call it whatever it is. I no longer care for sad people being sad about relationship stories. I don't care for that. Like,
I mean, that happens. But it's clearly at some point, like when did it happen with you? Like when were you like, this isn't a thing I enjoy?
I think like middle of last year.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you think you can pinpoint that in your reading and ratings even?
That's the thing. I have to look back because that's one of the things that would be interesting to see.
It's something to research, I guess.
Right, because here's the thing, like something happened to me last year, and here's the thing, I'm not into relationships and stuff like that, so it's not that I had a huge breakup and then I'm thinking about like, you know, because I'm taking it out on because I'm that edgelordy or no, nothing happened, trust me. I live a very relatively boring life, but something happened to me that I'm like, I'm not interested in this kind of stories. This is not something that I care about. I'm not gonna be reading this. Like I don't care for this.
Maybe there's like a moment in time where you read so much of that you were like, you got real burnt out on it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's also like, you know, because, you know, people talk about like, oh, movie critics don't know what they're talking about. Because they are like that. They've gotten burned out because they've seen the same story again and again, and they don't wow anymore. So I feel like something about that story at that time wowed me, but now I remember what happens in it. I'm like, why? A very interesting topic.
Yeah.
So going back, then I read Joker by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. I gave it 5 star. I actually kind of still like it. Arkham Asylum, Grant Morrison. First of all, no one should be reading Grant Morrison in their year 1 of comic reading. But
Don't hurt your brain too much.
Yeah, it's different. You kind of have to be knowing the comic media a little bit before you can get into that. But I read it and I gave it 4 star. No memory of it. I have no memory. Like, I don't know what happened in it. Nothing. Then I read a lot of Jessica Jones, all of Jessica Jones. That was like Alias and then The Pulse. I gave it all 4 to 5 star. frankly, I remember that being 4 to 5 star. So, that's something. Then there is a Long Halloween, another story I gave 5 star. I think it's 5 star because that was really cool. Haunted Night and Batman Hush, I gave both of them 3 and 4 star respectively. Do not remember what happened in Haunted Night, but I do remember what happened in Hush. Then Gotham Central, gave it 4 to 5 star, which I still think is 4 to 5 star. Then this is where the interesting thing, Fables by Bill Willingham, I gave 4 star to the first one, 2 star to the second one, 1 star to the third one.
Oh, wow.
Then I stopped.
That's a progression.
Right? That is a progression. I remember exactly what point, and this is something that I'm like, I remember exactly. In one of the episode, like one of the panel, Goldilocks says that, why do you think I married your son? Goldilocks says to Papa Bear, do you think I married your son because he's that hung? I read that panel. I threw the book across the thing. I'm like, no more. And I realized that, oh shit, that's a library book. I should return this. That was it. I'm like, supposedly it's really good, but then again, Bill Rightingham, or whatever his name is, has some really interesting political ideas, which, I mean, depending on which direction you go to or how you choose to support or not support those people who has that idea, it can be complicated. And then I remember doing that, and I watched every single episode of Once Upon a Time. I watched the whole of it right after that, just to be like, fuck that.
To get that out of your head.
Yeah, this is much better. Like, I don't know. And the thing is, like, do you feel like there is a reason to have that edgy bullshit about added to everything, like especially fairy tales?
No.
I don't know, me neither.
I mean, I still have this. I just have the first hardcover that was gifted to me many years ago by someone who I haven't talked to in ages, and I still haven't read this, so it's just gonna chill here. I'll definitely never get the hardcovers now because they're out of print, but
Yeah, I thought you were about to say that, and because of that, I never talked to them ever again.
Well, thinking back, I should have known back then that they were a crappy person. So,
Right? Like, hey, people love Fables, apparently. Supposedly that's a thing.
Yeah.
Then Fables, that progression really made me laugh, though, because I'm like, oh, there is a reason I never continued. Then I read The Punisher by Garth Ennis. Welcome Back. I still consider it to, and then Punisher Max. So the omnibus came out later, but this is like Punisher Max 1, 2, and 3. I think I read up to 3. I didn't continue after that. 5 star to all of them. Completely agree. I still remember them. Those are some bullshit. Like, if you're a Ennis fan, you love it, and I'm one of them. I have a love-hate relationship, but that's kind of, I agree with that. And then there's Saga. I read up to volume 5 because that's how much that was out there. I gave it 5 star to all of them. Completely agree to that. Batman Eternal, which was kind of like happening in New 52. I remember I gave it 3 and 4 star, and I still remember liking it, as in like it was like a blockbuster, like like something that you kind of just read it and get over it, and still kind of holds true for that. And then, sorry, wrong one. Ghost World by Daniel Clowes. I gave it 2 star. Did you ever read that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have the big deluxe hardcover.
And what did you think about that?
I read this in my graphic novels class in college. Ooh. It was assigned to us, and I was the only one in the class who loved it, but I loved it. And I remember the reasoning being like, we all had to read a book together and then write like an essay on it. And then we would talk about it in class. And everyone's like, these characters were terrible. I hated these characters. And my professor was like, well, Kristan liked it. What do you say? Because I was just trying not to even say anything because I was like, this is going to be stupid. And it was. But I was like, I just feel like was relatable because everybody was like, oh, there's no people like this. And I'm like, my friends and I were like this. Like, these characters are so sarcastic. And that was like my entire high school talking to my friends. Like, we were just constantly sarcastic and trying to joke around. I don't know. We weren't like terrible like they were or anything, but the dialogue made sense to me. So I don't know. I would be curious if I feel the same now. It's been a long time, but
yeah. But the thing is,
I
like,
love them.
I for some reason, like, that was the thing. Like, everyone was being so sarcastic and all of that. I did not care for that. And you know how much I don't like teenagers.
True
So
that. That's true.
yeah, like, I don't like teenagers.
I read
And
it soon after being a teenager, so maybe that skewed my thinking.
but that's one of the things. And honestly, it's one of those books I'm like, maybe if I was still one, I would think differently about it. But I did not think about it very fondly, let's just say. And then Immortal Iron Fist by Ed Brubaker. I do not remember what happened in it, but I remember enjoying it a lot. So that's that. And then also, that's when I also found out about something called Marvel Events. Before then, I didn't know what Marvel Events was like. And then I read Avengers versus X-Men, and I gave it 5 star. I have no memory of it. Kristen, I have no memory of what happened in it. I guess Avengers and X-Men fought. All I do remember at the end, Cyclops and Captain America had a, like, very angry talk with each other, and that was pretty sexy. But otherwise, I don't. I'll tell you, I only knew about Marvel characters from the MCU and the movies at that point. But that's about to change. I'm going to tell you how. And then Miss Marvel. I read all of Miss Marvel that was available in trades at that time, and I gave it 5 star to all of them. That's absolutely very true, even now. I was just wowed by the fact that there's a Pakistani superhero who looks like me, talks like me, used to talk like me, but like, it's kind of out there. That just kind of got me. And then Umbrella Academy, both of them, I gave it 5 star. I don't remember what happened. Do you remember what happened?
No, I read that back in the day too, and
yeah,
I'm not sure.
And then Planetary Omnibus, I do remember everything that happened in there, and I gave it 5 star. That is like, and frankly, I was looking through my collection. Surprisingly, that is the only omnibus that I still have from that time. Like, that, and I think Gotham Central are the two that I still have that from that time.
Wow.
Like, I didn't sell it, because typically if I don't like a book, or I'm done with the book, I don't feel like I'm going to reread it, I sell it. So that's like the only one that I didn't. And then House of M, I read all of it, and looks like I gave it 5 star as well. But then again, I kind of like Elseworld story, so I think that's why I did it. I do remember what happened in that, because everyone kind of goes into this alternate version. They have to come back and all that jazz. Then there is The Authority. I read everything about Stormwatch and Authority by Warren Ellis. Loved every single one of them. Did not care for the one that Mark Miller wrote afterwards. And I gave that a good old 2 star, which I think needs to be even further down. Then there is X-Men Magneto Testament by Greg Pak, which I gave it 5 star, but that was actually about Magneto in concentration camp during his time there. So that was very poignant, and I kind of gave it 5 star because of that. Then moving along, I read all of Nightwing New 52. I don't remember a single thing. And I gave it all 4, 3, or 5 stars. Then I read Hawkeye by Matt Fraction. Gave every single one of them 4 star. Then I got to 5 star, 4 or 5 star. Then I got to Lemire Part, and I gave it a good old 1. So I did not like that for some reason. I don't know why, but I didn't. I can't remember why. New X-Men by Grant Morrison, I gave it 4, 3, and 4, the 3 Ultimate Collections. I think that's surprisingly that Grant Morrison. I just said that you shouldn't be reading Grant Morrison in your first year. The new X-Men was surprisingly easy to follow and are good for new fans because I remember reading all three of those within like 4 hour time. Like I don't know. Have you read that?
I actually recently got that omnibus, so I plan to read it soon.
Yeah. So I didn't. I don't have the. I did. I only have the Ultimate Collection that I borrowed from the library, and then went back and bought the omnibus because I'm like, oh, I liked it enough, and even now I have memories of it, like parts of it, and I
Well, that's
remember
good.
not caring so much of the ugly mutants because I don't care for ugly people in my comic book, but overarching, I actually end up liking it. So that's that, surprisingly. And then I did this weird thing where, because I was a noob and I didn't know any better, I decided to read entire Marvel Ultimate Universe. I read all of it, and I didn't even added most of it because I hated them so much. I didn't even want to add that in the Goodreads. And I kept on reading this, and I'm like, what are these people? Because I didn't know at the time that regular Marvel versus Ultimate Marvel, right? I'm like, these are the heroes people read about. I read like from like Ultimate Spider-Man to X-Men to Fantastic Four to every single one of them. I think I read like top to bottom all of them. And a lot of them, it was like started off at like a 4-star, 5-star, then it quickly becomes 1-star. No one ever should be reading Ultimate Spider-Man over a weekend. Do not do this to yourself because you're gonna end up hating everything about it by the end of it. Because first 5 volume, I was giving it 5-star, 4-star, 5, and then every single subsequent one 1-star. Don't care.
See, I think I only read the first half of it, and that was back when I was like a teenager, and I loved it. But
Right.
I haven't read it since because it's not easy to obtain. Even I know there's Marvel Unlimited, but it's just
Right, but
hard to like.
the reason it kind of dropped it because it's the same story keeps repeating. And if you're reading it in a one weekend, all 131 or however many, you begin to see the pattern. And you're like, okay, I just read it. What are you trying to do? You know? So I think that's kind of, and also at that time, I wasn't so much hip with the comic book world or how it works. So I was getting really annoyed. I'm like, this person just died. Why are they back? Like this person, like, it just like, a lot of things didn't make sense to me, which now I understand to be, oh, these are comic book trope, like superhero comic book trope, or these are Marvel trope, right? So I look at it much differently now than favorably now than I looked at it at that time. You should not do this. You should not never read like all of it in one weekend. That's not good. Then I read Irredeemable and Incorruptible, all of it, and I gave all of it 5 and 4-star. Perfect. That's still 4 and 5-star to me. Wanted by Mark Miller, I gave it 1-star because it's a gross. No, we shouldn't. Somehow, I also gave 5-star to Nemesis by Mark Miller. So I don't know, like same, and it was like the same day I read them. So I don't know what was going through my head. Identity Crisis by Brett Meltzer. This is embarrassing because since then I have a complete different idea of it. But at that time I gave it 4-star. I don't know. Like I don't know what I was thinking. So it's what it is. Then looking back, Captain America, Man Out of Time, I gave it 5-star. I still think it is a 5-star. Book of Magic by Neil Gaiman, no memory of it, don't care. Kingdom Come by Mark Waid, 5-star. Injustice, God Among Us, book 1, all of them, whatever was out there, I gave them all 5-star. Still valid, still agree with that. Then Avengers Disassembled, that whole event, I gave it anywhere between 5 and 3-star. I have no memory of it. Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis, I gave that 5-star, which I still agree. Empire by Mark Waid, 5-star, agree with that. Then Supreme Power, I read all of that, and I gave it 5 to 4-star. That was very interesting because I read that from the library and then I quickly went and bought the trade and never read it again. So, think whatever you want to think about that. Powers Definitive Edition. It was kind of interesting because it was like 5, 5, 4, 4. Then it became 3 and then 2. 5, 5, 4, 4, 3,
Sad.
and 2. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop now. And then as I said, all the Ultimates. Then I read Last Man, and I gave it 5, 5, 4, 3, 2. I don't know why I gave 2 the last one, because I kind of remember it fondly. Then Vision by Tom King, I gave that 5 star. And that was end of my 2016.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's kind of interesting. It's like I didn't even add a whole bunch of books out of shame. That's something that I just learned because I actually exported the library. So I don't know whether what went on with that. I don't know whether I probably didn't put the red or something. Because it's not like me not to add the books in Goodreads. So I have to go back and investigate that.
So you're looking at like what a spreadsheet version of it?
Yeah, because I exported that on spreadsheet.
I wondered how you were seeing all the ratings so easy because I was like, man, I had no way to easily look at like a list of that.
Oh, because what I did, I kind of just put those columns side by side. Like the red list, like, I kind of took out all the 2016 and then put that next to the rating. I moved the column next to the.
Now that you exported it, it makes sense. I'm just looking at the challenge with like the pictures.
Right. That's how I did it. So
okay, cool.
Yeah. Because I felt like I needed to know that what ratings I was giving. I'm baffled that I gave Identity Crisis 4 star. Like, this is what happens when, so one of our co-hosts, Maddie, she talks about, like, because she's recently started, and then she kind of looks very kindly on a lot of comics that she read, and we're like a little, we're like, no, that wasn't that good. But now looking back, I'm like, oh, I used to be Maddie then. I was still like, being wowed by that.
So looking back on 2016 now, as you are in 2019, what do you think was the worst thing you read that year?
Oh, it has to be League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I remember that because I remember how bad it was. And I gave it
even then you were like, this is not, because you gave it like 1 star or something, right?
Yeah, I still gave it 1 star. And I'm like, that is bad. That is so good. Yeah. But the thing is, like, another thing though, I think Ultimate Marvel Universe, I don't have much good faith in them. But, like, faith in that, because at that time when I read it, like, every one of them, every title I started off with like giving it 5 and 4, but as it continued, it kind of went down. But I personally believe the reason for that, I read it all in a 1 month. Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I think I'm being unfair to those because I read it all in one go, and I'm like, what is this? This is just story keep repeating. And I didn't quite understand that that's the way comic books work. Like, sorry, superhero tropes work, if you know what I mean.
That's an interesting thing to talk about too, because it's like, I sometimes wonder if my feelings would change about certain things if I read it all, like if I binge read it or just read a trade every now and then, or like, because there are certain things I'm reading as they're coming out, whether in hardcover or like trade or even single issue with like Giant Days, and I'm like, would I feel different if I just read a butt ton of this like in one go? So like Super Sons, I'm like, if I were just reading when I read the New Adventures of Super Sons Volume 1, I'm like, that's fine. I mean, I had fun with it. But I gave it 3 stars versus like the omnibus, I gave like 5 stars. And I'm like, that's kind of a totally different thing too. It's like, oh wait, this read better, I think, in a binge format.
Right. And the thing is that that's one of the reasons that I don't read like any series unless it's done. Like, unless it's like, of the writer, either the writer has moved on to a different thing, which is for the superhero comic. That's how you kind of know when the series is over, a new one is starting, or even for Image Comics, because I feel like when you're doing individually, it doesn't, for me, the journey and the end matters. A book can have the best story ever. If the ending sucks, it's not good for me.
Yeah, no, I feel that way too. I feel like with some things though, like having a break from it helps it.
in some cases that's also the true, like, you know, especially for superheroes.
Yeah, maybe with the Ultimate Universe, had you read like one here, waited a bit, one there, maybe you would have forgotten that like
how
it
much
kind of went, well, even that it went downhill, right? So like if you would have read the first 3 trades of Ultimate Spider-Man, went on to something else, remembered, oh yeah, there's more coming out now. Okay, let's go back to this.
right.
It's, you know, because you said they're all the same stories for you, it's something that you maybe forgot by then, and you're like, oh yay, I like this thing.
Right. And the thing is, like, I think, like, with the Ultimate Universe, though, that was a 10 to 12 years worth of story, right? I read it all in 1 month. Who is the sucker here? Like,
that feels
no.
problematic.
Yeah, it's you. But the thing is, like, I think, like, what really didn't jive with me is the fact that they all were so edgy, so, like, you know, real life edgy bullshit, like, you know, edgelords, and there was no change in them. Like, within, like, I read it within 1 month. They never changed. No one ever changed. Everyone kind of stayed the same edgy bullshit, like, all the time, and everyone was like quibbing all the time and stuff. Very much like MCU, but MCU people feel different. They have heart and stuff, but they, in that one, I was like, ugh. And Iron Man never recovered for me since then. Like, don't care for Iron Man. Like, I don't care Iron Man. Even though it's different Iron Man, by the way. It's like, you know, because he's half Latina, like half Latino in it. Like, he's Antonio Stark. But even then, I'm like, oh God, you guys all suck so much. And can you believe it? The idea was they're going to replace the real universe with them full time. I was like, thank God they didn't. Oh my God, I would have never read Marvel after that. But anyway, so yeah. But I don't know. And I was also reading superhero story with a different lens at that time because I wanted resolution. But superhero comics, for one thing, you should never want resolution from them because they keep on going. There is a resolution by the creator, so whatever he's doing, he will leave the character at a different location. But that doesn't mean that that's a new normal for that character. So there's different understanding of it that I have gained later than at that time.
That's fair.
Yeah. So what's your journey down the memory lane of 2015?
You mean 2016?
2016, sorry.
Do we want to cut it off here and do another part? I think we're going on an hour or so, right?
Okay, well that's good. So we're gonna come back.
Quite a few.
Yeah. So yeah, so we're gonna try our best to kind of keep it under 1 hour. So we can come back sometimes, probably next week.
Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah. So we're gonna come back sometimes next week to kind of talk about our next chapter of it. So like I said, we're still kind of figuring out how we are going to put content in this channel. You can go to our regular shows on every Sunday in Omnibus Collectors Group. The link is below. We have our our Instagram, our Twitter. The link of that is below as well. I have already recorded a review, which I'll update, which will go live over here, not live, like, you know, which will be available for you to watch as of 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, where I reviewed Hellblazer with a friend of mine, Bethany Spillman, the first Jamie Delano's run. And the idea is that we're going to continue to do this kind of like long form review that we cannot quite do in the chat, in the regular show, along with this kind of content that you've seen today. So let's see how it goes. So click, like, you know, subscribe and like, and leave constructive criticism if there's certain things that you want us to talk about.
Let us know, please. Leave us a comment. I will address something in the chat. The highlighter is asking, so is this the new home of Fangirlz? No, I mean, we're still going to do our Sunday show every Sunday on the Omnibus Collectors Network, but we're going to do a lot of additional content here. So, I mean, it is a home, but we also have a home, and we're not going to leave that channel, and we're still going to do our Sunday show. You can see us there as usual. Starting next week, we'll have Maddie, so that'll be good. But we're going to update you guys. Check our Twitter, check our Instagram. We're going to give updates there. And again, please subscribe to the channel. If you want more content like this, let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll put up stuff for you.
Yeah, and we're going to see how this goes and how long we can run it. So let's see. All right.
And thank you to everyone who has subscribed and everyone in the chat. We appreciate you guys coming over here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And we'll see you pretty soon.
Bye.